Coming up on Up at Noon, it's May the 4th, so of course we're talking about Star Wars, but also Nintendo Switch, and my favorite, James Cameron's Avatar. All that and more right now on Up at Noon. Hey everybody, welcome to Up at Noon! We keep doing it. They can't stop us. I'm Max Scoville.
Keep doing what?
The show that we're doing.
I thought you were going to tell them about that other thing we keep doing.
Oh, they don't need to know about that.
The helium balloons?
That's Brian Altano. We do weird balloon stuff when nobody's looking, but when people are looking on the various platforms they can look on, such as IGN.com, IGN's PS4, Xbox One, Apple TV, Roku, apps, and then Twitch and Facebook and YouTube. I always forget that Twitch and Facebook and YouTube aren't exactly.
Each one and they got lost.
Clap for the apps, everybody. Do it at home.
You can send us your questions throughout the show using the hashtag #UpAtNoon on Twitter, or leave a comment in the chat, and we'll do our best to get to it. We have an incredibly packed show today, so no promises. But man, it's May the 4th.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah.
Hi. Hey everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks. There's my special
But
cam.
first things first, we got to thank our sponsor, Prey. Prey is the latest game from Arcane. They're the guys who made Dishonored. This looks like a very cool, creepy game. There's basically a space station full of little shape-shifting spider thingies called mimics. The game is out on PC, Xbox One, and PS4 tomorrow, which is May 5th. And I believe there is a demo out there because apparently somebody forgot that it's not 1997 and demos are an old-fashioned thing that modern children don't deserve because they've been bad.
It's true.
Yeah, but if you want to check the game
we
out,
don't get enough of them.
I wish we got more demos,
I know.
please. Companies, just do that more because it's great to try a game before you buy it.
That's right.
Anyway.
So yeah, go check that out. They'll be sponsoring us all month, and thank you so much for being with us too.
Yeah.
Max, it's May the 4th, as we
May
said
the
earlier.
4th.
We cannot shut up about Star Wars, regardless of the day.
See, it's so weird that they have that one famous line in the Star Wars series that no one can ever make sense of, where they just say, "May the 4th be with you."
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I didn't even know they had the same calendars.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's
But
what they do in Super Mario Brothers. They say March 10th.
Yep.
Mario.
Super March 10th Brothers. But yeah, so May the 4th is funny because it sounds like May the Force, and that's the day of the calendar. So for something completely out of character, we're going to talk about Star Wars on this show.
Yeah.
Because we never do that.
First time doing that.
Obviously, Battlefront 2 is coming out later this year. I believe it's November 17th. Is that the right one? It's somewhere around then.
Another famous line from Star Wars, November 17th, or something like that.
November 17th be with you.
Luke, I am your November 17th, or
Anyway,
something like that.
That's a dead horse we've beaten. But yeah, so Battlefront's coming out. Obviously, Battlefront 2 has a lot of it's an interesting game to Google right now because it's a wonderfully popular 2005 game that a lot of people played.
Yeah.
And then that was an entirely different game. And the new Battlefront 2 is being made by EA and DICE and all them, and like people are kind of comparing it to Battlefront 2, and that's not entirely the right thing to do because a lot's changed since with how games are made since 2005. But we're going to do that anyway because we're big irresponsible babies. So here are 10 things in Battlefront 2 that we want in Battlefront 2.
That's a headline.
Yeah.
That's a goddamn good headline.
Sometimes we say the name of the video you're watching in the video that we say it out loud. But yeah, so first things first, this is a big one. General Grievous. Battlefront 2, when it came out, Revenge of the Sith had just dropped, and everyone was like, Grievous is pretty sick. I don't know how I feel about the rest of that film, but that Grievous, man, he's pretty sick.
Look at
That's
that
why he's
logo.
coughing all the time.
That old IGN logo, man. That's how long ago this was.
Yeah, actually, I pulled most of these screenshots from old IGN. It's really weird to dig into the vault like that. And obviously, there are like little granular things that a lot of people, I'm sure, want in Battlefront 2. But I just kind of was going over the stuff that they were marketing Stop doing that. That's not right. I'm great hungry. Anyway, moving on. They have announced that there's going to be more of a class system in Battlefront 2, the new Battlefront 2, and that used to be kind of much more of an emphasis of the original. They had jet troopers in the original one. It was cool because it was like almost this kind of snipe. They had like EMP rifles, and you could just jetpack around the map. In the first Battlefront, the one that came out in 2015, you could get jetpacks, but they were like these weird little kind of disposable power-ups almost.
And there were jet troopers you could fight in the single-player like mission campaign.
Yeah.
But nothing like that you could straight up play as.
Yeah, with the exception of becoming Boba Fett, it was like those jetpacks were kind of lame. Like I want like a proper class where you can just be a jet trooper, and maybe you're super weak against everything else, but you can fly, and that's the advantage. I don't know how to make games, but I want to use the jetpacks more.
Yes.
Moving on, some staps.
Dude, these are cool.
Yeah, this is a single trooper aerial platform. You might have seen them with the funny skeleton men we know as battle droids in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, but they got a little bit of play, and they were in Battlefront 2. I just think the fact that I really hope vehicles are vehicles in this one. In the last one, they were sort of like weird power-ups. They weren't really... There was no sense of them really being part of the battlefield, which was kind of a bummer. Staps are kind of like weird Segway speeder bikes for battle droids, so
Yeah.
give me them.
They're also a little harder to shoot.
Yeah.
Because they're a couple feet off the ground. I think those would be really fun. Like we've been saying, like with all the prequel stuff coming to Battlefront 2 2017, which I get confused with the Battlefront 2 2000, whatever the hell. It's going to be really cool to see stuff that probably looks better in this game than it did in the actual movies, because that's just the way the CG's evolved.
Yeah, no, totally. So moving on, here's another one. People were kind of let down by the space battles in Battlefront 2015. Battlefront 2 had big, huge, epic space fights. I really hope they managed to recapture that. I had fun playing Fighter Squadron in the first Battlefront 2015. I hate how we have to keep establishing which ones we're talking about. But again, it was like this kind of fun arcadey thing. It was very pretty, but it was also very, very simple, and we got only like a handful of ship types. So like, I hope they completely lean into fleshing that out and making it really just feel properly.
Yeah, the space battles in something like Revenge of the Sith are sort of like needlessly busy. So I think like finding somewhere between like sort of the sparse presentation in 2015's Battlefront versus that movie, like somewhere in the middle of those two.
Yeah, dude, like Battlefront 2015's Fighter Squadron felt kind of like Little League soccer, like with like you'd have like the two types of teams, and there'd be just like everyone's either like an X-wing or an A-wing or a TIE fighter or a TIE interceptor, and just to be like, all right, well here's these teams going out. If you got like tagged out, you had to go back to edge of the field. And you're like,
Did anyone's mom bring orange slices?
Yeah, that's actually a cool cutscene. If you beat that fighter squadron, you get to see orange slices. All the pilots are having nice orange slices.
What else we got, Max? Yes!
Killable Ewoks.
Killable?
Oh yeah, you could kill them. You could just run around. You could just murder them. We had Ewoks in Battlefront 2015, but they were like set dressing.
I don't like that face.
Who would do that? Just make them so they explode and just shoot fire everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. Just make us let us kill an Ewok. Specifically that one from the Ewok movies.
Yeah, did they digitally alter his eyes in the special edition, I believe?
They added eyelids to the Blu-ray release of Star Wars.
They should have just closed them entirely.
Yeah, that'd be good. Just sleep forever. I want tanks. I don't care what kind of tanks, whether they're hover tanks or AAT tanks. I just want some big effing tanks. It's going into Battlefront 2 after playing Battlefield 1 is going to be very difficult, because there's a certain level of like just kind of groundedness and also kind of just goofy sandboxiness to Battlefield. And I know they're obviously entirely different series and they're doing entirely different things, but if I get to play a Star Wars game where a bunch of people can just hop on this weird cowcatcher on the front of an AAT and be like, we're going to go into battle, and they just immediately get killed by somebody who's playing as Mace Windu or something, I'd be it's a good time.
We're getting Rey and Kylo Ren, so there's a possibility we could get the Federation tanks that we saw in Force Awakens. Like, those are really dope. They're like kind of a little more sleek, not as sort of like Battle Beasts clunky as these things are, but like, yeah, let's get them all. Like, why not?
Let's get some vehicles. I want some vehicles.
Just jam all that Star Wars in there.
We need some Wampas.
Oh, look at him.
We gotta have Wampas. Wampas, there was like an Easter egg of a Wampa.
Yep.
Which is kind of not really how they're supposed to be. They kind of get up in your business and they ruin your life. They don't just like disappear like red pandas.
If you're watching this and you remember it, shout out to Shadows of the Empire, which had a Wampa cheat, which let you play as Wampas, which was awesome. Yeah. I want that again. I want him to put down that wet turkey leg he's eating there, though. That is really disgusting.
Yeah, or you just go around and pick up all of them.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. That's
all right.
Good.
Moving on, Dagobah.
Yep.
Specifically because I want to see Dagobah rendered with the same level of fidelity that DICE demonstrated with the first Battlefront game. Just like go to some swamps and photograph all the weeds and the fog and stuff.
You have to imagine we're getting this. Like, I feel like of all the things that we've predicted so far, this feels the one that like they absolutely have to do this, because they did almost every original trilogy setting.
Yeah.
Pretty much, right? I mean, they're doing Tatooine, like they're actually doing the Mos Eisley Cantina or the Mos Eisley area. I don't know if we'll be able to go in the actual bar. I hope so. But we did not get anything from Dagobah at all. So that'd be great.
I want to see like, here's a 3D representation of this movie you've seen a million times. Speaking of which, Coruscant. That's another big one. Coruscant's cool because it's so huge and it's so sort of like, you see so many little glimpses of it in the prequels and of course in like Clone Wars and Rebels. Let me see like a map based on it. I feel like they've got almost carte blanche to do whatever the hell they want. They could make some like random, they could make maybe a 1313-ish type level.
So we
They could
got
be like, oh, it's the Coruscant depths, and you're like,
we got Coruscant, or we got like Bespin in the Cloud City DLC, which
Sure.
was like sort of like a step in the right direction for that, of sort of being like, here's what a kind of sprawling city could look like with interiors and corridors.
that's like comparing like Pismo Beach to New York City.
No, seriously, and it was like so bare bones, and even for what from what we know, like Empire Strikes Back did with Bespin, like it just felt very like minimalist.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
sparse.
Give me some weird, dirty Coruscant back alleys. I think it sounds like a good time. And honestly, like,
Yeah, we never
people
got
love Coruscant. Let's see it.
We never got 1313, right?
Yeah.
So give it to us.
Yep. And then finally, droidicas.
Droidicas.
I want to see some droidicas. I want to see some destroyer droids rolling around. They got shield generators. Master shield generators.
These would actually be really cool to control for a few minutes, right? Not only if they were just like NPCs,
Yeah.
but if they kind of like swapped in the way TIE fighters did in the last game.
Yeah. I mean, if there's one thing that the big complaint I had with the last Battlefront is that it was very sparse and it was kind of stingy with power-ups and with like new heroes and vehicles and everything. And it was too much of a special treat to get to play as something weird and unusual, and that's the whole point of Star Wars, I feel like.
Yeah.
So we get to
that's-
see that in November, and yeah.
So that's the stuff we want in Battlefront 2, not from the original Battlefront 2 that we want to see back in the new Battlefront 2. It's very clunky.
Who's on first?
Some of you may have rose-tinted goggles for the original Battlefront and Battlefront 2, so we thought we'd go back in time and play them this week to see how well they hold up. Spoilers, well, you just have to watch. Let's check it out. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Brian and Max from Up at Noon, and we are playing Battlefront 2. That's right, we got it early. No, this is the original Battlefront 2. We've been talking a lot about Battlefront 2 coming out this November from EA, PS4, PC, Xbox One. So we thought we'd revisit the original, which I'm sure many people are doing this year. And it, like, kind of weirdly still holds up. There's a lot of cool stuff in this game.
Yeah, this is also one of those games that survives on the basis of all the mods and stuff. And also there's, I think there's an online community. I don't know exactly how much work has to go into it to get it kicking ass on a modern PC. That's the beauty of PC gaming. I know the console versions probably don't look so hot in this day and age. Also, what's up with that tank? He's being weird.
It's got some funny
It looks like a scared horseshoe crab. I don't know how I feel about that.
So we're playing the single-player campaign stuff right now, right?
Yeah, which is just kind of just screwing around with bots. There's actually kind of a cool story that happens, which is all about being a member of the 501st, and it kind of follows you from, what is it? It's from, like, Revenge of the Sith through Empire, I think? See, I want to just go in that tank. But I guess I have to kill it instead. Thermal detonators! How many? Kick
So
his
obviously
ass!
what we're seeing here that we'll get to see again this fall, hopefully way better looking,
Yeah.
is prequel stuff.
So yeah, that's what I'm really excited about. Obviously, I was, I watched the prequels and I was really excited about them when they came out. 2005 was a weird time for me because it was like I graduated high school, and the last Star Wars movie of the sort of my childhood, so to speak, came out, and then it was kind of like, what next? Like, do I go out in the world and become like an adult? Like, what do I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, there was that period where it was like, what does Star Wars have coming? Well, they're doing a cartoon show, which a lot of people like, but I mean, it was kind of like, it felt less, it was less of a huge exciting thing as a big movie.
This rules,
Episode 7
man.
didn't seem like it was happening,
Yeah.
but now we have Episode 7, and it's awesome. It's great. But yeah, so it's cool to kind of go back and revisit this. I didn't play this when it first came out because I was like, I don't know, sort of starting college and broke and didn't have like a PC, but I remember like being really excited about the idea of it. And, like, there's a lot of stuff in here. Obviously, there's a lot more moving pieces.
Yeah.
Uh,
But you can kind of
over
see
there.
where people were upset at the last Battlefront game that came out in 2015 because it was missing a lot of, like, first of all, single-player stuff. They eventually added bots, but nothing really to this degree. But also, like, vehicles in that game were, like, weird power-ups. Whereas, like, you just got in, like, a, rudimentary prequel chicken walker,
Yep.
stomped around, shot a tank, and jumped out.
I
And it
believe
didn't,
that's what is that? That's an ATDP?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I fell over. Yeah, also just the wide variety of classes and stuff. This is such a... I mean, obviously, it's
that. That's
got a lot more stuff going on, because look at the graphics.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see what, like, if they make prequel era stuff that looks like normal next to original trilogy stuff, that in itself will be kind of a cool accomplishment.
Yeah, that's rarely done in the Star Wars universe. I really like that.
Look at his funny little boots.
So yeah, this is just a quick look at this game, which you probably remember playing from a long time ago, but maybe you haven't looked at it in a while. I think sometimes it's important to do that. I had a thing a couple of years ago where I was like, I want to replay Shadows of the Empire.
Yeah.
And I was like, oof, this didn't hold up so well.
That didn't work at all.
That was funny. But I think that this one kind of does in a weird way, right? Like, we're in a weird era now where low poly stuff kind of is cool to look at again, especially on PC where it's not just sort of like letterboxed or anything.
This also has been modded to high hell, so if you can get it up and running on your device of choice, well, PC, I guess, you can.
Ah, you dropped your energy soda.
I like how Tamira Morrison was 90% of the voices in prequel era stuff.
Yep.
But
yeah, that's Battlefront 2, not to be confused with Battlefront 2, coming to stores this fall.
I see what you did there.
And if you want to play Battlefront 2, you either wait or just play Battlefront 2.
IGN, this is clickbait. You tricked me. Yeah, we'll get you next time. And may the Force be with you.
Battlefront 2.
Battlefront 2.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us today. If you're watching the show, you obviously can tell we like Star Wars, and we hope you do too. But there are some people who are uninitiated by Star Wars. They haven't seen a single film yet. I don't know who they are or why you associate with them. That's very generous of you to spend your time with people that just are actively annoying one of the best things in the world.
There was a point where I could understand it, kind of. Like maybe you didn't have cable growing up, you just didn't know anybody who was into it. And now I feel like as we're getting more and more Star Wars movies, it gets to be harder to initiate those people because they're like, there used to be like, 3 of them, and then there were 6 of them, and now there's eight of
going
them.
On 9.
And it's like you kind of
going on 10.
The train is gradually leaving the station, and it's going to get harder and harder to get into these movies.
Yeah, not even counting all the side canon stuff and Clone Wars and Rebels. So the hardest thing to do really is to decide where exactly you start somebody with Star Wars. Now this debate's been raging for years. It used to be incredibly easy. You and I grew up with Star Wars, and it was like you watched the first 3, then the prequels came out, and they got a little muddier. Rogue One came out last year, and now the conversation is considerably more difficult. I've started reading theories that for people who have never seen a Star Wars movie, the first one you should show them is Star Wars Rogue One, or Rogue One: A Star Wars Story.
That's not a good idea at all.
It's very bizarre. So here's the justification behind it that I'm hearing from people. Canonically, it takes place before A New Hope, which is the start of the most important and best Star Wars trilogy. I think that's pretty undebatable. And it leads you right into that story, and it enhances that story for everybody else. The reason I disagree with that, or 2 reasons I disagree with that mainly, is number one, Rogue One is full of Easter eggs and references that I think more devout Star Wars fans will understand better.
I think the best comparison would be if you've never had a beer before.
Yeah.
And you've never had a beer, and you've got a friend who's like a huge beer snob, and he's like, oh, you've got to try this oatmeal porter stout. It's from a small batch brewer, and you're like, what does that mean? Like, I don't know what any of these, like, just baby steps, you know? Like, work your way up. Like, maybe have like just a crappy beer and figure it out from there.
And number 2 is that while Rogue One did a great job of setting up A New Hope stands on its own. You know how I know that? Because that's what it did for like 40 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool that we have backstory now that explains like sentences and throwaway lines and showing us the struggle that took to get where we are. But I understood that the Death Star had a flaw in it because I saw A New Hope when I was like 7, and I got it, I figured it out.
Yeah, so I have a friend who I exposed to the Star Wars movies, and she didn't understand who Darth Vader was as a character until she watched the original trilogy. And she just assumed that he was kind of like a dumb supervillain type guy who just come in and kill people and just be bad. But then she's like, oh wait, he's got like a nuanced, deep story, and that's why they made 3 prequels explaining him as he is.
Yeah.
If you show Rogue One and Darth Vader shows up, you have no idea who he is, and it makes no sense.
It's so true. Like, it's also like he shows up at the end of Rogue One. We're not going to spoil anything here, but he has a scene at the end of Rogue One, if you haven't seen it yet, where he comes off more of like a horror movie villain than he does like a nefarious and calculated military general, which I think he spends most of the original trilogy doing. Second thing, let's talk about the other approach that people have taken is this weird thing called machete order.
Right.
And I understand it. The way it goes is like this. You watch A New Hope, you watch Empire Strikes Back, the first 2 Star Wars movies released. And then you pause the trilogy and you go back and you watch 1, 2, and 3.
Or you can skip 1 and just do 2 and 3.
So basically, Luke finds out that Darth Vader's his father. You go, who is this guy? Flashback, here's the whole sequence. That's, to me, needlessly confusing as well. I describe it, since you went with the beer reference before, I describe it as like listening to a bunch of classical music and then pausing the CD in the middle to listen to a bunch of like, I don't know, DJ Tiesto remixes of classical music. Like it feels weird.
Yeah.
Like it's still classical music, but it's like a totally different take on it. So, here we are where we are in this long walk, because this is a long walk, to get exactly where Max and I have determined the definitive order of Star Wars movie watching should be, and you're totally free to disagree. It's totally okay.
But let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, number 1, A New Hope.
Easy start.
Obviously, it's the first Star Wars movie. Just watch it. It introduces everything. It's the way it's meant to be. It's not going to scare anybody off. It's a really good movie. It holds up incredibly well.
Yeah, both on a story, narrative level, technical levels, CG, all that kind of stuff, or lack thereof, holds up really well.
And then following that, you do it the way you're supposed to do it. Star Wars: The Holiday Special.
That's right.
No, I'm just kidding.
Just kidding.
Empire Strikes Back, obviously. It's the perfect follow-up to A New Hope. Just, that's how it goes. You have to do it. Anybody who watches that out of order from there is a lunatic, or you're probably the way we watched it, actually going to video stores in the early 90s.
Yeah, I think I saw Jedi first as a kid, so it
I
confused
watched
me.
it out of order on USA or something. Anyway, and then of course Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Machete Order is cool, but I think it really, you've got momentum with the original trilogy, and you learn to appreciate these characters. Now this next one is kind of a crazy ball. Is that a sports term? I don't know. We're talking about Star Wars. Who cares?
Yes.
The Force Awakens.
Force Awakens. Now hear me out. You're probably like, but what a huge jump it is from Jedi to Force Awakens. Yes, but what a huge jump it is from Empire to Jedi. When we leave Luke Skywalker in Empire, he's lost a hand and found that his father is an evil robot man. It sucks. When you find him in Jedi, he invades a drug dealer's house in a robe, and he's like insanely powerful, and all this crazy stuff goes on, and he has to fight like this giant turd monster in the basement.
Now bear in mind, this order of viewing might change in a matter of months, because there's going to be suddenly a different follow-up to 7. We don't know where that's going. It might be relying heavily on stuff that happens in prequels. Who knows? But I think that it also makes sense because it is familiar characters, and it's being like, the prequels have a problem with having too many familiar characters, but in like almost like a where were they in high school kind of way. Whereas this is like, what happens next? And up until 2 years ago, we didn't know what happened next. So it's kind of like,
following the same thread from the original trilogy onward.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the theme here.
Again, if you're exposing somebody to Star Wars movies for the first time and you're on like a time crunch, or maybe you have to put aside a number of weekends to do this, getting through 4 movies is a lot easier than getting through 8 movies. So you can still take them to see Episode 8 when it comes out this fall. Right? Makes sense.
Yeah.
So they'll be caught up and they'll kind of know what's going on. Now, next up, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
See, now it gets crazy, because here's my logic on this. You've just showed somebody 4 Star Wars movies. They're in. If they haven't left you or broken up with you or stopped being your friends, they are locked into this franchise and they love it now. Now, you can start to give them needless backstory, which Phantom Menace has in spades. Why do we say that? Phantom Menace is obviously the one of the original trilogy, or the prequel trilogy, that is sort of like the one that even Machete Order people can gloss over, right? It doesn't really have a ton of stuff that adds...
it introduces you to Jedi Knights as being part of this larger organization. You get to see the Senate. You get kind of a sense of like, oh, Palpatine wasn't always a bad guy. And
young Obi-Wan is super cool.
Yeah,
Ewan
McGregor's great. It's also just like, I would say, kind of on the same level as the original trilogy and the newer movies. It's the same amount of CG and practical effects. Like it's pretty. There's a lot of CG in there, but it's also like, it's not quite as beating you over the head with it as you will get with 2 and 3.
You're totally right. I didn't even think about that. There's a ton of practical effects and sets and props in Phantom Menace, so that's a good transition into the sort of newer era.
Now, next, Attack of the Clones.
You're in. You're doing the prequel trilogy now.
Sorry, you got to do it.
Flying through it. This is what you wanted, isn't it?
Yep.
And if you wanted your friend to be a Star Wars fan.
And if they're like really on board, then of course you can do I don't know, you can do Clone Wars or whatever.
Yeah.
But then of course there's Revenge of the Sith.
Yep.
Which you'd label as Attack of the Clones, whatever.
So if you're following so far, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, and finally, Rogue One.
Yep.
Full circle, right? So now that you've learned everything, this Rogue One does a good job of sort of like bridging that prequel stuff with the newer stuff, with CG, with storytelling, all those things. And it's very much standalone.
Yep.
So I think that makes perfect sense. And by now, you are so enriched by Star Wars history that what can you do? Go back to the start.
Yeah.
Go back to episode 4. So re-loop your trilogy. You want to go to the next slide?
Oh, all right. Well, next one, just watch A New Hope again.
Yeah.
Just go back full circle.
Go back, watch A New Hope. You're done. So that's it. 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. Rogue One, a Star Wars story.
Yeah.
And then by then, anything you want. Anything,
Yeah.
bring them on the ride, buying the toys, getting the books.
Once you get 8 movies deep, either you hate it and you don't want to have anything else to do with it, or you're on board. So, I don't know, it's always weird when people are like, I've watched this show for 2 years and I've decided I don't like it. Like people who watch Up at Noon.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're here, we're doing it, so is Star Wars. Train's leaving the station, either get on or, I don't know, go ride some other form of public transportation.
Now, Max, we're in very deep on Star Wars, all things toys, books, games, and everything, but the video games, I think, have been kind of a weak spot for the last few years. We've gotten Battlefront.
Yeah.
We got a couple of iPhone games. There's a couple little things here and there. Lego Star Wars, Lego Force Awakens is fantastic.
I feel like that's kind of a good exception.
Yeah.
The problem is that the level of design that goes into modern AAA games, you don't really make like a AA Star Wars game. I mean, they kind of did that for a second. There was some kind of weird shovelware on the kind of maybe N64 PS1 era. But for the most part, I think that Disney's like, hey, this is Star Wars. We make nice things, and the standard of quality for like a puzzle game on your phone is a lot lower than something like Battlefront. So obviously, you get people who are working very hard on making. I mean, like Amy Hennig's making what's probably going to be like Star Wars Uncharted, and I don't even know. There's the guys at Respawn doing something, and like we've got DICE and Criterion and Motive all working together on Battlefront 2. Those are bigger. They cost a lot of money. They take a lot of work to go into them. But it's like we're kind of left being like, well, there's a Lego game. Well, what else can we play? There is a new puzzle game out right now. It's a mobile game. It's free to play. It's called Star Wars Puzzle Droids, and it is a incredibly casual match 3 game. But I will say it's done, I think, right.
Yeah.
I think they managed to do it in a way that's not like super crappy and full of microtransactions the way you might expect.
You said a lot of trigger words.
Sure, yeah.
That I think a traditional hardcore gamer would sort of winset.
Yeah.
You said match 3, casual,
Yeah.
free to play.
So if you're a hardcore gamer, this might not be for you, but if you're a hardcore Star Wars fan, this might be for you.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a look at what it does that's pretty cool. I've been playing this pretty obsessively. And let's take a look. It's on my phone right here. The whole thing is basically you're playing as either BB-8 or R2-D2, and you're supposed to reclaim your memories. And for BB-8, you start way at the beginning of
Wow, you're in deep.
Force Awakens. Yeah, and I love this whole map. Like you're following basically BB-8's journey from landing on Jakku and heading to Nema Outpost and hanging out with Rey. And they keep kind of rolling out like funny little in-game mechanics. Like you'll wind up meeting. Let's see. Let's see if we can find these scavenger dudes. You have to fight Tito, I think. Here, let's just play it real quick. But yeah, it's like Bejeweled. It's a dumb little matchy puzzle game. But they managed to throw in all these Star Wars details, like, oh, we gotta fight this dude by matching shapes.
So I think the logic here is that like this is not the Star Wars game to replace the hardcore Star Wars gaming that you do, but if you're gonna play a match 3 puzzle game on your phone, which let's be honest, a lot of people do because they're kind of fun and addictive, play one that's based on Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, you can play Candy Crush and you can play like, I don't know, Minions Toilet House or whatever.
The Minions back.
I just like recoil when I say that name.
Yeah.
But like this is like, this has a Star Wars candy wrapper around it.
It's junk food,
Yeah.
but it's junk food that's well made. Like I like that they actually spent a lot of time. These could just be like, they could be like little Zwinky drawings of like, oh, it's Rey with like sparkle eyes or whatever, but they're like, here's a little Rey model that's like fighting stuff, and there's all these weird little rules for making the game.
And the narrative here is that you're kind of unlocking droid memories, right?
Yeah, and then there's kind of like weird stuff where you'll have one of those ugly birds, one of those steel peckers. I think that's what they're actually called. And you basically have to like match like 5 red tiles for him to like attack the metal, and then he'll attack part of the board. It'll free up more tiles. I don't know. It's kind of cool. So
it's free to play.
It's free to play. It's out now. It's on iOS and Android.
When do the sort of like sticky, icky, you can't play right now, you got to pay,
So that's the thing, is you basically get a new life, I think, every 15 minutes or another half an hour, but you can do side quests that give you and your lives are batteries, which makes sense because you're a droid. So if you want to play a bunch, you can just throw money at it and be like, I'm going to play for hours on end. And there's of course, there's 5 different forms of currency in game. There's the purple crystals that let you buy power-ups, and then there's the gold ones that let you unlock new levels. And it's I don't know, it'll have you backtracking and sort of grinding to get more points in earlier maps. But I mean, mostly it's just if you're taking a dump or riding the bus or whatever, you can't play Battlefront 2.
Or both.
Also,
we won't judge.
Yeah.
You can poop on that bus. I don't work for the bus.
Yeah, I really kind of I saw this at a Star Wars Celebration, and I was I mean, okay, it's a match 3 game, and then I played it for a second, and I was okay, as a big Star Wars dork who has a smartphone, yeah, I'll check this out.
So this is out now.
It's out now. Go check it out.
Go do that.
Now, on the subject of aliens and spacemen and whatnot, as we mentioned earlier, this week we are sponsored by Prey, which is a game about being on a space station that is full of shape-shifting little alien guys.
Almost the box
They're called
quote.
mimics. I love the idea of just some guy who's real upset. He's the space station's full of little shape-shifting things.
Little alien
Yeah,
guys.
that's kind of the key mechanic in the game is these things can turn into whatever, and you can, I think, harness them and turn into stuff. It's very exciting. I believe you get to play as a coffee mug at some point in the game. But we recently got...
sentence.
Yeah. We recently got some bad news on account of our Prey sponsorship. The IGN offices have been infested with mimics. And we're gonna see if Brian can spot them.
Ooh, I get to find them?
You can play along at home. This is gonna be quite a lot of fun.
So this is Where's Waldo, which I found out they call different things in different
Yeah, they
countries,
call it Where's Wally in the UK, which is very strange. But yeah, let's start things out. We actually we're big Bethesda fans here at IGN, and we in fact have a Fallout-themed conference room.
We do.
It's called Vault 101. So here's a photo of it. Brian, can you spot what's wrong with Vault 101? Something in here isn't right, and I think a mimic might be to blame.
In here? Can I find him? Is he behind the television in the upper right?
No.
No. Is he in the jukebox?
Now remember, they can shapeshift, so he could be anywhere. It could be anywhere.
Okay, is he the projector?
Now think about this. This is called Vault 101. What's wrong?
Oh! The number's wrong!
Oh! He's a mimic!
Ah!
He's a mimic! It's disgusting! Kill it!
God!
Hit it with a shovel! It's terrifying.
This is really
All right.
messed up highlights magazine.
Let's get the hell out of here. Okay,
I
so
feel like I'm at the dentist's office.
as we mentioned, again, IGN offices. We got a lot of this stuff laying around. Here's our nice hallway. You can see our Pip-Boy, and we've got our Dovahkiin there. We've also... We're moving the mouse cursor. The mouse cursor is giving too much away. Now, what looks out of place here?
Well,
You come to this office every day, and it's a totally normal place to work, as you can tell by all the terrified writing on the walls and the fact that we have fire extinguishers. What looks out of place here? Where could the mimic be hiding,
Well,
Brian?
the Vault Boy's got his thumb up, which is normal, but maybe there's something in his hand?
No.
Fire extinguisher is spelled correctly. You seem to have done good there. It says Fallout 4, which is true.
Yeah.
That's a name.
Yeah.
I have no idea. The bloody hands?
Oh, maybe that's it.
Is
Maybe
it
that's
the
it. Normally, there are only 2 handprints there. One of those is a mimic, and it's a shape-shifting animal that lives in our office, and it's going to bite us.
Oh, that's totally different than the misspelled. I don't know how many hands there are. That's way harder.
Yeah, you don't pay attention to the office around you. You got to
would I
keep
count the
constant
hands?
vigilance.
Do you
I
know
could
how
be a
many
mimic
bottles
and-
are behind us? Like 100, maybe 7, 2.
What if I think that would have been too challenging
Way
to
too
replace
hard.
that.
This is getting
Now,
hard mode.
here's
so
some of
fast.
our fun arcade games we have at work. You can see we've got Walking Dead Pinball, we've got Galaga, we've got the Tron, we've got that weird Taito bootleg cabinet thing.
This Pablo,
Now-
the building maintenance man.
Yeah, Pablo's not a mimic. I don't think. If he was, that'd be too easy to tell. He's always walking around carrying boxes and doing suspicious things with shovels and hammers and whatnot. Now, what's out of place here? Look at all these classic games. They've got all these bells and whistles, a lot of details.
Yeah.
A lot of things that could be going on. Something is out of place in this image.
Well, I know that The Walking Dead is definitely on AMC, and Galaga is spelled that way, I believe. Tron seems to check out, and the IGN sign. I think everything's fine in this picture, and you're trying to do a goof.
You ever played Galaga before?
Yeah.
How do you play Galaga?
I don't know, like with your hands.
Yeah.
Does it not look like whatever that is? That a different?
What's up with this?
There's 2 joysticks.
You got it, because one of them's actually a mimic. It's hiding in the joystick. It turned into a joystick, and you can't. It's gonna bite you. Anyway, now let's get really challenging. Let's get weird.
All right, all right.
Our colleague Andrew Goldfarb is a big fan of lots of cute little toys. He's got all these cute toys on his desk. Here's a photo of his desk. Look at all these things on his desk.
It's a weird desk.
Now, what's out of place here?
I mean,
So obviously he likes the amiibo. He likes little Captain America Tsum-Tsums. He likes the Persona stuff. Clearly.
I can tell what's at his. He's in his 30s and he collects Japanese girls' dolls.
The entire desk isn't a mimic, though. What's something's a little bit strange. Something's unusual. It's not what should be there.
That wolf. This
You're gonna have to. I don't honestly know what half these things are. So
This looks so. No, all of this.
I'll
looks
give you.
weird.
I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
Andrew is especially fond of little stuff.
Oh, I see a Garfield.
I see
a Garfield.
It's a Garfield.
Yeah.
Mimic became a
I
Garfield.
I knew it. Nobody would have a Garfield. He's not a cool cat.
Yeah. He hates Mondays, but so does Goldfarb, and that's why he wasn't. Actually, he's got strep throat. Feel better, Goldie.
I got dark.
Yeah. Anyway, now here's our desk. Obviously, here's kind of the challenge. This
Real
is-
manly desk for adults.
Yeah, it's full of, as you can see, it's real tough boy American toys.
Real quick, the way the Hamburglar is standing in front of that Yoda statue in the bottom middle, it looks like he's like, oh!
Yeah, that actually does look really weird.
Okay, so this desk I look at every day. I
Yep.
should be able to understand.
Oh, you are in for a challenging
This
treat.
is very tough. Okay, so there's a bunch of R2s, a Jabba the Hutt, Max Rebo.
Want to closer to the monitor and see if you can get
Let's get in a little closer. Let's get a little.
I can't enhance it. I was.
I'm not gonna get up.
Get up and go to the monitor.
I'm glued to this chair.
All right.
Like Stadler and
So yeah, we've got a lot of. Obviously, we collect our own sort of special things. I collect my Boba Fett's. You collect like I don't know Ponda Babas and Nintendo things and
Weird
stuff.
frogmen.
Yeah, a lot of weird frogmen. That's true.
This is tough, Max.
This is really
tough.
this is tricky.
Can I get a clue?
Um,
Just give me a little clue.
does that help?
Is that a Salacious Crumb?
Yeah, that's not Salacious Crumb.
Is he not supposed to be there?
No, he's over with Bulk and Skull in the lower left-hand corner. He's hanging out with Yellow Mega Man and that gold coin.
So wait, that's a different Salacious Crumb?
That's the exact same Salacious Crumb.
But you totally have that.
But he's not real because he's a mimic and he's on my desk and he's going to bite my toys.
That's so cheap.
How is that cheating?
Because you would have a Salacious Crumb there. That's a thing that you probably have like 4 of already.
I don't have any Salacious
You
Crumb.
don't have any Salacious Crumbs? I'm going to buy you a Salacious Crumb. Everybody should have a few
All right.
Salacious Crumbs.
Well, there you go. So anyway, find the mimic. That's a fun little game. That was actually really fun to play.
That was hard.
Yeah.
I hope the game's not that difficult where they just go in a room and there's like a guy with like 8,000 toys.
He's got a bunch of like mimic plushies. You're like, oh, come on.
Come on.
All right.
That was great. Thank you for that, Max.
So one thing we always are trying to do, though it probably clearly doesn't look like it with our stupid desks, is save some money. And video games are a really expensive hobby.
That's right.
It's easy to forget that because sometimes they're free to play on your phone, and sometimes you get like a cool used copy of something. But sometimes they cost $400 for the box without a game in it, you know?
Yeah,
And
there's also
ridiculous.
this like weird, and we're guilty of it too, this current tendency to buy things the day, the second, the minute they're out, even pre-buying them, so that you can be part of the conversation, so you can have them on day one. But there's a lot to be said for waiting a little bit, or kind of just like digging around to see who screws up. There's a website called Cheap Ass Gamer that I check a lot, because they just sort of like catch weird manufacturing flubs or like a glitch in the system. So I went in the Podcast Beyond Facebook group. If you don't listen to Beyond, it's a PlayStation show Max and I do every week. Get on that. It's great. It's on iTunes, everywhere else. And I asked that group there on Facebook what the best video game deal they ever got was. Because I know a lot of people are just out for that. They're looking for it. They have their ear open for things like that. So here are 6 or 7 of our favorites that we found in the group. I got dozens and dozens of responses, so thank you to everybody for participating. But these are some of the ones that stuck out to me. Joseph Dubai says, I wanted the Wolf Link amiibo, didn't know they were going to release it on its own. I went to Best Buy and they had a flash sale on the Twilight Princess amiibo bundle, bought the whole thing, went across the street to GameStop, took the game out and traded it in for only $3 less than I paid, ended up paying $3 for a Wolf Link amiibo by gaming the system.
Damn!
So that's really smart. There's bundles, right? And you can sell some of that stuff piecemeal back to Craigslist or eBay or even the store you bought it from. I was reading stuff about people were forced into buying those bundles for like Switch on day one, and then would return the games and end up getting a better deal than they began with.
Weird.
So all that stuff's pretty interesting.
The whole thing reminds me, it's fitting that that's Zelda, because that feels like a trading sequence.
It does.
From, like Link's Awakening.
I'm so glad you said that.
You gotta give the monkey the cannonball so we can give you the magic powder, and then you can have a key.
And the cool thing is, like, Amiibo usually go for like $13 each, so it's hard to find them for cheaper. If you can get one for $3 like that, it's a good deal. Then there's a $90 PlayStation Vita. I love this story from Tim Madel. I just bought a Vita on Facebook for $90, including a game and case. When I got home, I was surprised to find a 64 gigabyte memory card inside. That alone is worth more than I paid.
That's awesome.
If you've never bought a Vita before, which is thousands and millions of you, I see you. You got to fix that. You don't know, but the memory cards for Vita are sometimes more expensive than the Vita themselves. So this $90 for a Vita, a case and a game, I don't know what game that is or what case that is, could just be a garbage bag, is a great deal with the 64 gig
also,
memory card.
that Vita might have been stolen. Then again, I also had a similar thing. Back in like 2007, I think, I had a cool summer job that was like paying me decently, and I was like, I'm gonna buy a PlayStation Portable. And I went on eBay and I looked it up, and somebody had like one of those wonderful little bundles of, not a bundle, he was just selling a bunch of crap, but it was a PSP, it was a case, it was like 5 games, including like really good stuff like GTA and I don't know what else, but I think I had like a UMD for like Click or something like that. And inside, of course, was like a beautiful like 2 gig memory stick, and I was like, well, that makes it a much better deal.
That's awesome.
That's always good.
All right, next up, we got the €10 Rainbow Six Siege deal from Daniel O'Brien. Some kid's parents bought him Rainbow Six Siege, but he didn't like it. He put it on sale on Facebook Marketplace 2 days after launch for €10, and my girlfriend spotted it, picked it up the next day. First of all, she's a keeper. Second of all, Facebook is a great place to buy used and cheap games, apparently. I did not know this.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Nice.
I've been in GameStop.
Dumb kid.
Yeah, dumb kid. Yeah. I've been in a GameStop before where like somebody goes to trade something in that they don't like, and the store is like, I'll give you $5 for that, and I'm like, I'll give you 10. And he's like, oh, and he gets real cash instead of those Jeffrey Fun bucks they give at GameStop. So that's a good deal.
Power coins.
Next up, Luke Wykes, $10 Pokemon cards. $10 for the entire first 3 sets of Pokemon cards in mid condition. Those hit eBay quicker than Marty Sleva hits a bar.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Very true. Thank you for that quick jab at our friend Luke. That's why I put it in there. Beautiful. Those are crazy. Did you collect those Pokemon cards as a kid?
Yeah.
You got a couple of them?
Yeah, I think my mom threw them out too. Like I totally had like a holographic Vileplume from like the Team Rocket line, I think. And I was like, this is a nice card. And then there was that kind of dark period where nobody was rebuying them or anything. And like now it's all like, all bets are off because everyone got nostalgic and disposable income.
James Rodriguez with the $17 Arkham Knight Premium Edition. My biggest deal in recent memory is probably when I got the Batman Arkham Knight Premium Edition with all the DLC for just $17. Months after its release. This was due to a price glitch on Amazon during Black Friday 2015. So that's another thing you're going to see with these deals is that sometimes there's a price glitch and the manufacturer sort of like has to roll with it and the seller has to kind of like handle it and authorize it. But then other stores will price match that price glitch. Like this next story, which is by far the best, and our last one, Tommy Sawtooth, which sounds like a video game villain, got a $30 PS4. I had Target price matched their own website and got a PS4 for $29.99. Best deal ever. So here's what we found out.
I think the best deal ever is being named Tommy Sawtooth.
That's a great deal. That's a double deal. Plus that goatee, this guy's killing it.
Maybe they were just like, they didn't want to argue with a guy named Tommy Sawtooth.
Let's go back to this
He sounds like
picture.
a bookie or something.
This is what happened here. Target thought they were selling the Uncharted collection for $29.99, which was a $60 game at launch, but then went on sale. Instead, they sold the Uncharted collection PS4, so you got a $60 game and a $200, $300 console.
That's awesome.
$30.
That's so cool.
Look out for that stuff. That is the best way to get a good deal. Now, video game sales, it's something we're just like incredibly obsessed with here at IGN. I check the NPD like a hawk every single month.
If you take the dollar sign off, it's just a score.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And currently,
and we love scores.
Nintendo has the highest score against itself the last time it played. I don't know how that really compares.
That's right. We got some sales numbers recently from Nintendo directly. Not in a Nintendo Direct, but I'm sure that's next. No pun intended. That the Nintendo Switch is the fastest selling Nintendo system of all time. 2.74 million plus in the first month or so, 2.76 million Zeldas, 10 million expected sales in 12 months. And that's kind of underscoring it a little bit. Like that's being fiscally conservative, which Nintendo's known to do, especially after like kind of, let's be flat and honest here, the Wii U tanked.
Yeah.
And the 3DS was sort of lukewarm comparatively to something like the DS.
Well, I feel like the 3DS kind of cooks the books in terms of how it sells because it's been the most constantly iterative thing since the DS came out in, 2005?
Yeah, it's kind of tough, right? Like, video game sales are a little different now. If you look at, go back to the NES had the original version that everyone had for years and the top-loading version, and that was it. The Game Boy, on the other hand, or look at the PlayStation Slim, the PlayStation 4 Pro, like the PS2 Slim, like these things now.
Like if you say like, oh, it's the Game Boy, is that like a thing that sells Game Boy or that plays Game Boy games, or is it specifically original Game Boy? So that's.
Then we have like the Xbox 360, the one with the faceplates on it, the vertical, slim, all these things. So you're right, it is cooking the books a little bit. But we thought we'd look at the last few, or pretty much every Nintendo console and handheld sale ever, and kind of predict how we think this thing's going to do and where it's going to sit. So play along at home if you think if the Switch is going to outsell these old Nintendo systems, these old handhelds and consoles. So let's take a look at some sales and history of Nintendo stuff.
So Nintendo Switch. 2.74 million.
Yep.
Ooh, let's just compare that for a second.
Yeah.
The Wii U, in its lifetime, correct?
Yeah.
The Switch came out last month.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Wii U had a strong first month, as most Nintendo things do. Nintendo diehard fans get into it. After that, around month 2, the world knew that the Wii U was tanking. We just knew. The sales were dead. There was nothing really coming out for a while. Lego City Undercover was like one of the biggest things we were looking forward to, which admittedly is a cool game, but not really like a move thousands and millions of systems off the shelves. So the Wii U was kind of dead in the water, and that was it, which is why we're seeing success of the stuff like Mario Kart 8 getting moved over to Nintendo Switch and knocking it out the park.
Yeah.
So let's be totally honest. The Switch will outsell the Wii U.
Yeah.
Pretty easy to do that.
Probably, I would say almost by the end of the year.
I think if these things started exploding like the Galaxy Note thing did, I think it would still outsell the Wii U. Just going to say it.
Wow.
It will. Coming up next. Wow. Okay, so here's a tougher one to beat, right? This is the Nintendo DS, 154.02 million.
Yep.
This is Nintendo's, now we've seen their worst selling system of all time. This is their best. A lot of people don't know that. They think it's the Nintendo Wii. It's actually the DS. Through all its iterations, like you said, that weird version we got at the beginning that looked like a messed up layer cake.
Now, does this include the 2DS?
No. So
Okay.
the 2DS is part of the 3DS.
Okay.
It's confusing.
So this includes everything up until DSi Lite?
DSi, DS XL, the DS Lite.
Okay,
that
so
whole
anything
family.
that didn't ever have 3D with that first chipset. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything that didn't have new 3D or 2D in it is part of the 154.02 million, which is kind of an amazing number. Like, and why did that work exactly? Let's dig into it. Aunts, moms, grandmothers, grandfathers, people bought this thing. Lapsed gamers, they bought. They bought like things like Tetris. They bought things like Nintendogs. They bought Brain Age. I have an aunt who still plays Brain Age every day. Just crazy. It's crazy. Like, why? She's like,
Also,
I got to do my puzzles.
The use of
Sudoku.
the pencil and thing, like I think that was very non-threatening for people.
Yeah.
Like there's something to be said for like a weird little boomerang thing with buttons on it, but to be like, oh, it's like a pen. You touch the buttons. And,
Why else?
Yeah.
These.
Yeah.
Not really readily available at the time. This was pre-smartphone market saturation. If you wanted a handheld device with a touchscreen, this was pretty much one of the first ones out the jump.
Yeah.
There was a couple. There was like Palm Pilots and stuff, but those didn't take off.
Yeah. Then of course.
So I don't think the Nintendo Switch is going to outsell the DS line. I don't think it will. I think it'll do really well, but I don't know about that.
Unless they cut the price to like $100, which why would they do that? That's
Now
crazy.
let's look at this old favorite. One of my favorite things I had in college, not alcohol, but they did go hand in hand. The GameCube. The GameCube was adorable. It came in a bunch of different candy-coated colors. Had a little like purse handle you could bring anywhere, and funny buttons, and that weird nipple.
Yeah.
It was great. It was great. Smash Brothers, like awesome games with this thing. Time Splitters were great on here. Tons and tons of million sellers. It sold way less than the PS2 at the time because the PS2 was basically, let's be honest, a Trojan horse DVD player. It sold pretty much neck and neck with the Xbox. I believe comparatively over its life, the Xbox ended up selling a little bit more. A cool thing happened with the Nintendo GameCube. Sold a lot out the gate. Had a big spike when it came to stuff like Smash Brothers and Pikmin and Mario Sunshine and all that stuff. When the GameCube dropped to $99, the charts went like this, down to this, back up to this again. So the GameCube actually spiked considerably. So the Nintendo Switch is selling really strong right now. But in a couple of years, when it's hit that point where it's like 2DS price, when you can get a Nintendo Switch for $150 with a game bundled in, like Mario Kart, that thing is going to clean up.
Yeah.
It's going to clean up.
Because moms.
Because of moms. So I think the Nintendo Switch will outsell the GameCube. Why? Because it's both a handheld and a console. I think it's going to crush it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to beat the GameCube, and I love the GameCube, so I'm sorry to say. Little known fact, the GameCube did not sell as well as the N64. I think the N64 had a worse library, it had worse third-party games, but it had some damn good classics. It had Ocarina of Time, it had the first Smash Brothers, it had Super Mario 64, it had goddamn GoldenEye.
Yeah.
This thing ruled, it had Perfect Dark. But it only sold 32.93 million.
Less people were playing games then.
Yeah.
That was just less of a thing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's a whole generation like us who've grown up with games, and we're like, yeah, that's worth that money. But
Yeah.
I mean, to people who are like our parents' age, like that looked like a stupid, trivial thing. Like get those boys a personal computer for their
It's true.
school projects.
And honestly, the year the N64 came out, the idea of charging third parties overpriced fees for cartridge-based games when they were making disc-based games on the PlayStation. I mean, stuff like Final Fantasy VII, Metal Gear Solid, like that's where people were going for their games. Also, that thing was a CD player, right? So again, more Trojan horsing.
Yeah.
N64 did not do that great, but let's keep moving. I think it will outsell the N64. Now, this is where things get tricky. 49.10 million, right underneath where the PlayStation 4 is right now, is the Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo, one of the greatest consoles ever made, hands
crazy.
down.
That's
just,
nuts.
Just gorgeous. I love this
Yeah.
little thing. Do you think the Nintendo Switch can outsell the Super Nintendo? 50 million.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
I think it can.
You think so?
I think it can.
If they start putting virtual console games from Super Nintendo on there, please.
So once again, during the Super Nintendo time, you had the Super Game Boy and you had the Game Boy, and those things all communicated with each other. Now with Nintendo's handhelds and consoles consolidated into one thing, I'm not going to talk about the new 2DS, 3DS, Switch, XL, whatever the hell they're calling that thing. Where the Switch is right now, I think it has a chance to topple the Super Nintendo. But let's keep going. The NES, the originator, 61.91 million, close to 62 million sold worldwide. Had two iterations, the top-loading one and the fatback, which many of us blew in as children. Too many games to remember counting, right? This thing sold millions last year when they shrunk it, and then they stopped selling it.
Yeah. This was the first modern game console.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Can it beat this? I think it can. I think it can. I think it can. So
so?
here's the thing though, like lifelong to date. Now PS4 is at like what, 50, 55 million right now and moving up every single
Yeah.
day, still selling more. I think it can get up there. I think
yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
I think the PS4 is going to sell around 75 million when all is said and done.
Well, that's going to be tricky because at what point does it stop? Does the PS4, we've already seen like the PS4 and the PS4 Pro.
Yep.
Are we going to see continual kind of iterative versions of it? Are we going to see that with the Switch?
I don't know.
We don't know.
We'll see.
So-
We'll see what like sort of the Scorpio shakes out of Sony this fall, right?
Yeah.
Next.
Sounds so menacing.
It does sound menacing.
Scorpio shakes out of Sony.
Next, the Wii. This thing sold 101 million. It's their best-selling home console. I don't think this will do Wii numbers. I have a feeling Nintendo wants it to, though. It's going to get there. Mario Kart on the Wii sold 35 million units. It was the best-selling Mario Kart to date. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe launched on Switch last week. It is the fastest-selling Mario Kart ever. So momentum-wise, maybe?
You know, if you look
Maybe?
at it though, the Switch is at its core a cross between a Wii. It's got the little wiggle things for party games, and the DS. It's
Yeah.
portable. You take it with you. So maybe
Maybe.
that's it.
Maybe.
You know, maybe that's it.
And I think last, what do we got here? The 3DS? Yeah. 59.79 million. As you can see, you probably don't remember the 3DS looking like this, but this is the 3DS I bought at launch. Not very comfortable, kind of cumbersome, very terrible battery life. But there it is. You know, good things come in small packages. Their handhelds have iterated and evolved over the years. I think it can beat the 3DS. I do think so. So that's it. Tell us what you think. Where do you think the Switch will sit in handheld sales and console sales, all these other things?
Where do you classify it?
Yeah, what do you classify it?
Yeah.
Man, we've got a lot of show today. Max, You put together a fun little presentation for the audience today.
So while we're on the subject of things that do really well and make a ton of money, James Cameron is hard at work on 4 Avatar sequels, if you're unfamiliar. The first Avatar sequel was supposed to come out this Christmas. It has been pushed back to a release date of December 21st, 2018. If you're unfamiliar, the first Avatar film came out in December 18th, 2009. So basically, it's been 9 years, or will be 9 years and 3 days between Avatar 1 and 2. When those come out. That's Papyrus. It's a great font. It was invented by James Cameron.
I think it's free on your computer
No,
right now.
James Cameron invented it. It's the official font of the Na'vi.
Definitely not true.
Anyway, 3,290 days between Avatar and Avatar 2, assuming Avatar 2 does not get pushed back any further.
That's 3,290 days to forget everything that was in Avatar, which I did the day I saw Avatar.
Now, bear in mind, he's not just making Avatar 2. He's kind of laying the groundwork for all of them. I think they're being shot sort of back to back. No one's ever done this before. Nobody has ever done 4 sequels at once. Robert Zemeckis did Back to the Future 2 and 3 back to back. The Wachowskis did Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions. This is insane. Pirates of the Caribbean, yeah, they probably did that. I don't care. But yeah, what's happened between Avatar 2 and 3, or what will have happened? Let's take a look at that. For starters, here's a big one, and they're currently sort of vying for the big, grand space operas that are coming out around Christmas time and kind of, scooping up all that holiday, family stuff. Star Wars. In the time between Avatar and Avatar 2, I believe it was around 2015, which is sort of middle of the road here. Disney bought Lucasfilm for $4 billion, and since then they have put out Star Wars The Force Awakens, Star Wars Rogue One. This winter we'll get The Last Jedi, and by mid-2018 we'll have Han Solo. And that's barring any further announcements like, oh, we've made a...
That's the official movie logo, by the way.
Yeah, it's just a picture of... It's weird because it's just a picture of Harrison Ford. It's not even the new guy. I think he's probably pretty upset about that.
Yep. So 4 Star Wars movies in between Avatar 1 and 2.
Yeah. About 6 months before Avatar came out in mid-2009, Disney did something else kind of crazy that all of us were sort of rolling our eyes at. They bought Marvel, which had been kind of like putting out a handful of movies here and there. I believe Iron Man 1 had come out, and I think they'd done Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton, which is one of the few movies people have forgotten more than Avatar. But by December 2018, we will have gotten 18 Marvel Studios movies.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it's kind of all downhill from there because that really is just staggering to look at. Also,
Dude, just looking at that is like, what?
Yeah.
Y'all been busy.
And that's not counting the TV shows or the Netflix shows or the ABC, what is it called? It's like it's called like Vibe or something. There's like another channel they're adding stuff to.
Oh my God.
Freeform.
Look at,
I don't know why I said Vibe. Anyway, and so then of course we've also got the X-Men, get back here. Go back to the thing. We've also got the X-Men movies, which aren't exactly Marvel movies, but Fox, who also puts out Avatar in kind of the same earnings call, announced that in 2018 we are going to be getting The New Mutants, Deadpool 2, and X-Men Dark Phoenix, and that there might be more there. Those might also get pushed back.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 movies in the X-Men franchise.
Yeah.
And that's like obviously counting Deadpool and Logan, which is, its own thing. Damn.
Yep. It's kind of crazy. And of course we're not we're not playing favorites here, so let's take a look at what DC's been up to. The same, it was right after Avatar, Green Lantern came out. Yeesh. A lot of Ryan Reynolds movies up here.
Yeah.
Then we got Dark Knight Rises, and then they did Man of Steel, and they had Batman v Superman. And I feel like I might even be forgetting something in here.
Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman.
If we're counting
Justice League.
Oh yeah, Justice League's in there. It's up there. It's the big gray logo. But yeah, if you're counting stuff based on Vertigo, I mean there was a Jonah Hex in there somewhere.
Yep.
I think they did. I don't know I forget when Constantine came out. But yeah, there's a handful of things, and that's also not counting the direct-to-video DC animated movies. It's not counting any games. Everyone's been really busy. They've been in a lot of TV shows. And then finally, there have been 4 Fast and Furious movies.
That's it? It feels like there's been 15.
I know.
There's only been 4 between Avatar 1 and 2?
I think it's because like 2 years ago they announced that there's going to be like 11 total or something.
Oh.
But basically, this is what the landscape looks like. It's kind of funny because Avatar came out when it's not that people weren't making big, huge kind of epic space opera blockbuster movies like this. It's just that they weren't all part of universes.
Yeah.
There were plenty of sequels, and there were plenty of like things sort of coming out set in the same, same playing field. But a lot's changed since
I
Avatar
think
1.
you're so right. We didn't really throw around the word universe. We said the Star Wars universe back in the day, but we didn't say the Star Wars cinematic universe really so much.
Cinematic universe is a thing that was more or less popularized by Marvel, and clearly everyone's kind of following suit. And I'm not even counting stuff like Universal Monsters or Godzilla, or the fact that, between Avatar and Avatar 2, we're also going to have gotten 2 Predator movies. There's going to be Alien Covenant, there's going to be Blade Runner 2049, there's going to be the Mummy. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on. So I'm excited to see what Avatar 2 is, just on the basis that what the hell is Avatar 2 going to be? Because it's going to be almost 10 years in the making. So
it's crazy. It's really crazy to see that all laid out like that, just to see how much of our lives, how many different movies we've seen since
So look at all those silly fonts. So many silly fonts.
Yeah, there are some silly fonts.
And Harrison Ford.
How much time do we have left up here?
5 minutes. That's just enough time to blow our noses.
Yeah, let's do it.
So
we got a present in the mail, Max.
This is so silly. In honor of May the 4th, the fine folks at Kleenex Brands sent us a package full of Star Wars tissues.
What?
Yeah. Now this is nothing new. Star Wars has always been heavily merchandised. I think this is increasingly fitting because we're big, gigantic babies who get very worked up whenever we see a new Star Wars trailer. These are kind of cool. We actually went to Rancho Obi-Wan, which is the world's largest private collection of Star Wars memorabilia. And, he's got all the toys and all the stuff that people consider collectibles, but there's so much stuff over the years that people forget about, like consumer brands, which, Kleenex is one of. This is the kind of thing that it's Kleenex. You use it and then you get rid of it. You don't really think of it as like, oh, this is a valuable collectible. Right. Everyone remembers only 90s kids remember the classic kind of Pepsi Episode 1 cans, which were like, that was one of those rare occasions where they were really pushing the fact that these are collectible cans, collect all the cans, get all the cans, you can have all the cans together. And so people are going out and buying all the soda, and there's the old debate of like, do you open the can and drink it and wash it out and hope that wasps don't get in there? Do you hammer a nail in the bottom like it's a Ukrainian Easter egg and slowly drain the soda out? Do you hold off and buy at a convention a giant box set of all the cans sealed and unopened? Or do you just drink the soda and move on with your life? Obviously, soda's, I think, maybe less disposable even than Kleenex because they're like a thing you blow your nose into, among other things. But this one's got Boba Fett's all over it, and that's kind of cool. So maybe if you want to be like just a loon who has like a house full of Star Wars stuff, you can have some tissues. Or maybe you just take some to the theater with you when The Last Jedi's out. Because what if Luke Skywalker is going to come back on screen? He's going to be talking to Rey. He's going to be up there. We're going to cry.
Let's be totally honest.
Cry.
As an adult, you are constantly fighting microcosmic battles against adulthood in your own home. Tissues are a thing you should have because y'all is gross. But if you're gonna have tissues, make them look cool. Like if you're gonna walk by your apartment every day, you're gonna get the one with the flowers on it and those rabbits that are wearing flowers, like that grandmother garbage. Don't put grandmother garbage in your house. Put Star Wars stuff in your house.
Keep grandmother garbage out of your home.
Get the grandmother garbage out of my house.
Anyway.
That's it. That's our show.
That's our show, yeah.
Next week, we're doing a dramatic reading of this book. It's called Jar Jar's Mistake.
Which was
I think
accepting the role of Jar Jar.
Yeah, we're trying to make out with Sebulba over this wet bowl of frogs.
Yeah.
That'll be a good time.
Don't eat strangers' frogs.
We have a really awesome guest next week if everything pans out. I don't want to say it yet.
Knock wood, of which we have none in the studio. This is like a picture of it back there. But anyway, coming up soon, we've got another episode of the show you do with Zach Ryan, Linked Together, which is where you guys try to play Zelda together with separate Joy-Cons. And sometimes it's challenging because Zach falls asleep.
And you guys did a brand new episode of Beyond this week?
We did.
Go listen
to that.
We talked
about Darksiders 3 and will Robert De Niro be in Hideo Kojima's new game?
That's right.
Probably not. But let's talk about it anyway.
I hope so.
We'll be back next week, so tune in, and thank you so much for watching, and may the 4th be with you. Or the revenge of the 5th, or 6th, or whatever.
Luke, I am your November 7th.